Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Navigating Bliss podcast. I am your host, Athena, a spiritual self-love coach who loves helping women own their inner magic. I have been exploring spirituality and personal growth over the past 10 plus years. It has been a wonderfully windy road, and I cannot wait to share it with all of you. This podcast explores spirituality, self-love, personal growth, wellness, manifestation, and all things in between. If you are ready to deep dive into yourself and navigate a life of bliss, you're on the right course. Bon voyage! Yes, please. We made it!
Recording in progress.
Man, I could be a Zoom voice. I'm just saying. And an elevator voice. Anyways.
You could be any voice you want.
That's true. I could also be Athena. Oh, wait. I am. Welcome to the Navigating Bliss podcast with my beautiful semi-permanent co-host, Adria Gabriella, is joining me today.
Hello.
And I am so excited because we are finally here to have this conversation that we've talked about in so many of our podcasts about your book.
Yay!
How are you feeling?
So excited. Oh my gosh, my friend found it on Barnes & Noble's website last night and I was just flipping. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's real. It's for real.
Oh my gosh. Like, that's so surreal. Like, Barnes & Noble is like a big deal to see your book on their website. Oh man. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. And so official release date is when?
October 22nd, 2022.
Okay, 10/22/22. Love that. Thank you for celebrating on my anniversary with my sweetie. So that's nice. Appreciate that.
Oh, there we go. My book's birthday and your anniversary all in the one date. So perfect.
It is perfect. We love the number 22. That's why we went with it. So that's amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Awesome.
So we are going to talk all about your book and I'm so excited to dive in. I have questions written out, but I also really just want to let it like flow. And if you have anything like you want to make sure you mention, or if you get on a like flow path, like you just go for it. This is a free, fun forum of book exploration. Okay. First of all, let's start with the obvious.
All right.
I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but the name of your book is From Disbelief to Assurance, which is so beautiful. Can you just like really quickly tell us how you got to that title? Because that's like such a beautiful, like it paints like a rainbow arc in my brain when I hear it.
Well, that's good. That's what it's supposed to do. So yay. I came up with that title because at the beginning of the subtitle is A Journey Toward Spiritual Mastery, and toward because I'm still moving that way. But I started out being in a real cynical, skeptical state of disbelief. I looked for answers to, why am I here? What happens when you die? Things like that. And I had difficulty accepting the answers that I was told by different groups of people, parents and siblings or whatever. And I really wanted to know the answers. I really wanted to know for real. I didn't want somebody to tell me what they believed in or what they thought might happen. I wanted to well, what really happens? Tell me. Give me proof. And so I started out in that disbelief. I mean, my mom was from Missouri, so that's the show me state, give me the proof. So I think I got a little bit of that. And then the book travels through all the ups and downs that I went through to connect, to learning how to connect to spirit and learning how to get answers to the questions I was asking and find them. And I just feel like of course, I was guided along the way, and I didn't know I was guided along the way, but looking back, yeah, I was definitely guided. So, but that's the disbelief. Now, assurance, I liked that word because, at first I was thinking reassurance, but it doesn't really mean the right thing. So assurance is actually a word that means, I have the definition in the front of the book. Positive declaration, freedom from doubt, belief in yourself, self-confidence in your abilities. That's part of the definition. But the third definition, the certainty of the connection between a human being and a divine source, unlimited by belief or deed, a constant presence, a relationship which can never fail, be lost or broken. And to me, that is what I was looking for, that I could know what happens when I die. Why am I here? What is my purpose? I could know and not just be guessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were really looking for a way to get answers that didn't involve any sort of third party, essentially. You wanted the answers for yourself without being told by another. And that reminds me of something I really love about you as a person. And in your book, you talk about how you explore so many different what's the word? Religions, religions, and how you're not judgmental or negative or anything toward any specific religion. And I love that. And I feel like that is not a very widespread view. And I think it should be, because something I've heard you talk about is like even just as human beings, we all are essentially looking for the same things. So to be so judgmental and disrespectful of like other religions just seems counterproductive. Can you tell me more about how that was for you, like exploring different religions and how you stumbled upon to spirituality, which led you to this, like the past life regression and like the journey you're on right now?
Yes. Well, I mean, I was pretty young. I was in my early teens when I was asking some of these questions. And I've always been really curious. I've always been an explorer, if you will. We used to live by a place, there was a little creek running behind the house. And that was, I guess I was second grade. And I would love going out and exploring and running up and down the hills and going down by the creek and finding stuff. So I was just always into blazing a new trail and finding new stuff to learn about. And that's been a big part of my personality, just curious. I want to know about things. But when it came to questions like, what happens when you die? Where do I come from? What's my purpose here? That seemed to be more like the province of what you would learn at church. Connecting to a higher power, connecting to Jesus or God or Buddha or whoever you're connected to. And I liked your question about how people might be more judgmental or think that their religion is the best or whatever. That's a very common view. And I think we're taught to focus on differences in this culture rather than focusing on what's similar. And what I noticed by trying all these different places that I went to, the similarities, they all believed in some kind of God, higher power. They all believed that it was a loving being, and they also taught love and helping each other, and there was a social support system, and so there was a lot of similarities. Now, getting down to the nitty-gritty, there were some differences, but I think the goal was always the same: to help people, to help them have a place to go where they can be with other people who are on the same path, want the same things. So that's pretty much why I ended up exploring different religions. And as far as to what led me to spirituality, that was the big kickoff when I was really sick. And it was later when I was 16, junior in high school. I'd been sick for 6 months, and I couldn't get well. It kept coming back and worse, and coming back and worse. And at some point at one night, I just could not breathe. And the medicine wasn't helping. The inhalers weren't melting, the humidifier, all that stuff, nothing helped. And I just said, you know what? I am so tired of trying to breathe. I'd struggled all my life to breathe with asthma and allergies. And I finally just said, you know, I'm done. I'm just either, and I looked up and I said, I don't know if you're up there, God, but if you are, either heal me now or take me, because I'm done. I'm just done. And it's hard to admit that I got to that point, but I felt so alone and hopeless that I just like, okay, whatever. I don't know who's in charge of this, but I'm ready to just be done with this whole illness thing. And during the night, I woke up. Now wasn't born intuitive, wasn't born all psychic and everything, and couldn't see stuff or see spirits or sense any of that stuff. I had heard about it, but it wasn't anything that I had learned or experienced. But this night, after I asked my question, I looked up to the ceiling. I woke up and I didn't move because I was afraid, you know, sometimes when you get into a spot and you're sick, if you move, you start coughing again. So I didn't want to move. I woke up and I'm like, what am I awake for? And my eyes were closed, but I noticed that with my eyes closed, I could see the objects in the room. I could see the bookshelf and just like, what is happening? And so my eyes closed. Then after that, a light poured out of the ceiling. It was liquid. It was bright electric blue, and it just poured down and came toward me and kind of landed in the center of my belly, and then just as soon as it touched me, radiated out and enveloped me in this wave of warm energy. And as soon as it made its way up to my lungs, I could breathe. Instantly, I could breathe. And I was thinking, wow, right, what is happening? I'm not going to move because this feels really good. And I can breathe. And just like, oh, okay, what's happening? And I didn't want it to stop because, yes, this feels so good. But, you know, I don't know. It stopped eventually. And it probably was just a few seconds, but it felt like a good time. And I went right to sleep because I was exhausted. From, you know, being sick. And the next morning I woke up completely well. I completely well. No coughing, no sneezing, no congestion at all. I stopped taking all my asthma medicines and inhalers and all that garbage. And I have not been as sick since. I've had colds and stuff, but nothing like that. And
wow,
that made me think. It's like, okay, so I asked a question. I said, God, heal me or take me. So a couple of conclusions. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not done here yet. It didn't take me away. But second, it's like, wait a minute. Somebody heard me.
Yeah.
Who heard me? And they gave me an answer. And they healed me. That's even like another thing. And it's like, well, wait a minute. How do I get back in touch with them? What if I get sick again? I want to be able to like, wait a minute, somebody heard me. So that to me, that was like a first contact, a point of connection, you know, where it wasn't a two-way street yet. So that's really what got me thinking, wow, I better look into this more because clearly there's something. I want to know more about that.
Yeah. Sorry, really quick. Can you turn your gain down just a little bit?
I can.
Thank you.
Okay. How's that?
So I can't imagine as like a 16-year-old, you'd like wake up and be like, okay, well, that was spirituality. Like, obviously it stimulated questions in your mind, but like, I can't imagine a 16-year-old waking up and being like, okay, well, obviously that was some sort of spirit and I'm going to go like explore all religions now. Or did that happen to you? Maybe you're just a very unique 16-year-old.
Well, you know, I was an oddball. I already felt like an oddball. I had already gone to a lot of different churches before I was 16 because my mom was done. She was like, you want to go to church? Go ahead. So I'm like, that was cool because then we had the freedom. My sister and I had the freedom to go wherever we wanted. And I just went. to all the different ones I went with friends, or I went to the ones in the neighborhood, but I didn't really find the answers. So it was a good starting point, but I needed more. I wanted more. My mom had a few spirituality books kind of sitting around, things like Edgar Cayce, famous psychic. And, but if you ever tried to read Edgar Cayce, I was just like way over my head. And there was no, okay, so setting, there was no internet, there were no cell phones, there were no video games. It was, old school card catalog in the library kind of stuff. So there wasn't a lot of resources I had as far as trying to track down stuff like this. I mean, I tried to skim through some of my mom's books, but they were like college level metaphysical stuff. And I mean, I'm a pretty good reader, but wow, that didn't make any sense to me. I looked in the index, I looked for like blue light healing and all kinds of, I didn't find anything. So I didn't know what to say. I didn't tell anybody because I'm not crazy.
I know,
I'm not gonna tell nobody about nothing.
Especially in that day and age, like
high school.
This I feel like is a lot more widespread nowadays, but I can't imagine.
It is. That was like late 70s, early 80s. This was not.
It must have been kind of scary, honestly. Like
Very
wonderful,
scary, yes.
but also kind of scary.
Wonderful.
Just like, what the hell was that? Like, that's crazy. That really is crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
and also, did it really happen?
Yeah.
After a while, I think, well, maybe I just got, lots of doubts. I had lots of doubts.
Of course. Maybe it was a dream.
Right?
I mean, but it was a dream that worked. So who cares?
It wasn't a dream. I know that. I know that for sure, not because of how it felt. It was really, wow. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Okay. But like moving forward in your life, okay, I'm like, I don't even know how to formulate this question, but
it's okay.
When obviously this book is about the things that have happened to you that have added up to eventually you exploring your past lives. So yes. How did you get to that point? Like, how did you make the connection and figure out that your past lives, like healing and working through your past life, could have any effect on your current life?
Yes. Okay. So a little bit after, around the same time, I found a book. And this book was a fiction book, but it talked about a future society where there was these people learning to expand their awareness. And they did that by recalling their past lives and looking at their repeating patterns. And so they were doing it in this, science fiction book. And I was thinking, wow, that's a great idea. And, and it was also based on metaphysics. So it was a story, science fiction story, but it really had a lot of metaphysical undertones. So it really felt right to me. Like they would say now resonated. It resonated so much with me. I was like, wow, this is so awesome. I want to do it that way. And so that's how I made that connection between, well, if something I didn't figure out, if we have lessons to learn and I didn't learn something in the past and it's repeating now, I need to know what those are so I can resolve those or learn those lessons. But in the book, they had a little computer. You just sit down in the computer chair and the computer would play on the, big screen, all your past lives. And here's the things that you need to know. And, and then you just have to put it together. I didn't have anything like that. So I'm thinking, how am I going to get in touch with my past lives? And for me, right. Well, the options I had, I found, and it was many years, several years later where I thought, well, what if I go to somebody who does past life reading? So somebody who's intuitive, who can tune into my past lives and tell me about my past lives. So I thought that sounded like a logical next step. So I went to that person and, she was good. She sat down and she asked me a whole bunch of questions about my current life, which I told her about. And then she told me about some past lives that I had that all had some of the information that I had just told her. So I was thinking, skeptical me was going, wait a minute. I just told her that. And I'm, anyway, so nothing against people who are intuitive, because there are a lot of amazing people out there that can tune into a lot. But for me, it was okay. But at that point, I just said, you know what? If I'm gonna get this stuff from my past lives, I need to see it myself. I need to see it myself. I need not to be a middleman, because what if, when you're tuning into a lifetime, and let's say you're in a place and you look around and there's a clock on the wall and there's a little figurine off to the side, and somebody who's just looking in from spirit might not pick up the fact that figurine was so important because my uncle gave it to me, and he's, it's just, there are little nuances that wouldn't come through, that only you yourself, your soul, will recognize. So I asked for them to come through.
Wow. I mean, that makes perfect sense, because everyone's perspective is so different, and only your soul and your person would notice the things you need to notice, if that makes sense. Like, we see what we need to see. And if it's, like you said, like if it's coming through someone else, it may not necessarily be all that you can get from that experience. So
right. Plus their own perspective. So any person who's doing a reading has their own lens, their own filters that it's coming through. So hopefully their lens and their filters are clean, but they're going to be different than yours regardless.
Of course. I mean, you never know. Like, no one has had the same experience on this earth, the same traumas or any of that kind of stuff. So it makes perfect sense that you were working to find a way to really get the information yourself. That's like so amazing. I think everyone wants that, but is it hard work?
Well, I think it's more of a readiness thing. I did a lot of studying. I did meet up with a group of like-minded people. A lot of people who are fans of that book got together, and we met at conferences, and they were amazing. And it was just good to meet with people. So it's another thing great about church, is that you're with people who believe the same as you. And there's like a combined energy uplift by being around people who are like-minded. So that happened in the meantime. And then once I went to one of those conferences, I met some really cool people. And then we decided, hey, let's go to one of those places where the vortexes where our energies are energized, and maybe we'll get some psychic, downloads, or some big revelation will happen if we go and go there. So we did that. And that's where I had asked. So it was April that I asked to see it myself. In September, we went to the vortexes and I saw it myself.
Yes. Don't give that away.
Yes, I'm not going to give it away, but it's just like I was in a place, and I'm just minding my own business, just doing a little meditation, and blammo, there came a really life-changing vision.
Yeah, it's a doozy. Definitely read the book. I'm just saying, because it's really amazing. That's when it starts to really, really like pick up and be like, it's exciting to hear. Because what I like about it is, like, you talk about the little experiences that you didn't know were important until looking back on it now. So all the kind of nuance, like experiences like that healing you had as a teenager, and all the little things that happen, like leading up to, essentially this moment, that you didn't really think too much of it. You definitely thought some of it, but you didn't think too much into it until it really led to this incredible blast into the past, essentially. I feel like that probably just blew everything open for you. How did you react after you saw that first past life without any type of, you didn't know, you weren't expecting it.
No prep,
prep. Yeah, how did you react to that?
I was sobbing. I was weeping openly in public because I could not deal with what I had seen. And on top of the fact that I jumped into full bodied into a past life, I also heard the voice of my spirit guide, a male voice, a voice I'd never heard in my head before. That popped in, and another voice also popped in. which was just, wow. It was bigger than the blue light. Let me just put it that way. So
Yeah.
it was amazing. And just so many feelings rushed up. Oh my gosh. But mostly I was just bawling.
Yeah.
My friends and we came out of that little place that we were at, and we were all tears just streaming down our faces because we had all experienced something amazing.
Wow. I want to go to one of those vortex thingies. But like you said, I do think
It'll happen in the right time.
Yeah, there's a level of readiness. Like I do feel like some people go to places like this to try to force things to happen.
Right.
And then it's kind of like approaching anything with desperation. Like there can't be the desperate energy because that keeps it away. So you had done some work, you were open and willing, and I really don't think anything ever happens to us that we're not ready for. So in the moment, I'm sure you didn't feel like you were prepared for that. But you were, because look at you now.
Yes. And also when it came time to leave that place, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to lose all this. I'm going to lose all this as soon as I leave this location. And that was my biggest fear, that, oh my gosh, so I have all this, I can hear my spirit guide. And once I leave this place, am I going to be able to hear my spirit guide anymore? For the first time in my very lonely life, I didn't feel alone because I could hear the presence. I could sense the presence of my spirit guide. And I felt it finally, I'm not alone. I've not been alone. Clearly I wasn't alone when I asked, for help, and I got it. Clearly somebody was listening, somebody was there and aware. But just, as humans, we feel so alone sometimes. And that was huge for me. And I was terrified of losing that. And once I got back home to my own space, I went to my husband's church at the time. And it wasn't in English, but I just I'm just going to close my eyes and just let the music and the atmosphere wash over me. And in that space, I could hear the voices, and I could sense the presence. I could feel the touch, and I'm just like, oh my God. I don't have to be in that spot. I can be anywhere. And it'll still, I didn't realize how much I was worried about that until I got that kind of assurance that, yeah, we're still here. Oh my God. I was so grateful. Just so.
Yeah.
Big.
What a relief. Yeah. And that probably confirmed a lot of it for you too, that it wasn't like, oh, I'm in this place and like this happened and who knows if it was, I don't know. I feel like it's just very reassuring. And it's not like you were on any type of substance or anything. It was just merely the energy of the place. So it must have been incredible for you to connect to that and not need anything but yourself.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I've since learned that when you use, substances to try and force that to open, that you can get a lot more than you bargained for. And it's not as, I wonder if it's not as uplifting. I don't want to generalize and say that, because I've heard of a lot of people having really great experiences, but
yeah.
You get, anyway, that's another big can of worms I don't want to open.
That's for another podcast. Okay. So I do have a question. So I know you explore, oh my gosh, so many. I don't actually even know how many different past lives you actually talk about your experience in this book. What for me, when it comes to spirituality, it's all about the tangible feelings and results. So obviously you've worked through a lot of things, but what is one of the biggest tangible things you see different in your life, or even just in your soul, how you carry yourself through this current life, that you see has changed through this type of exploration?
Wow, that's a great question.
The biggest shift.
Well, I had a lot of fears And well, after exploring a lot of past lives, one of my greatest fears was death. And after viewing all the different ways I had died in other lifetimes, I was like, okay, well, the surprise was, you expect death to be like this big boom, big crash boom thing. And it really is more like walking through a door, or I call it a whisper, because just like one moment you're in a body and the next moment you're not. And it doesn't feel that different. In fact, there's one of the lifetimes I didn't even know I was not in my body. I was just kept doing my life because that's what I did. I was in a routine. I was in a rut, and I just kept doing it over and over and not realizing that I was not in a physical body anymore.
Wow.
So it's really more about such a whisper than a bang. And the surprising thing was, that I continued, and there was one life that I, left on purpose, and I really wanted to leave because I didn't want any of these emotions and the thoughts and the terrible things that I was enduring in that lifetime. It was really bad. You would agree with me, but I thought, okay, great. I'm going to die and all this is going to be over, and I won't have to deal with all these thoughts and these emotions and being tortured and all this stuff. And I died and it was all still with me. I'm like, well, crap, that wasn't worth it. So, shit. It's just, I still feel bad and I still have these terrible thoughts and nuts, shoot.
Yeah.
So but it still proved continuance. There is this continuing thread of who we are, and it's amazing. And after amazing. I have done over probably about 50 lifetimes. I haven't counted.
Wow.
And lots more sessions than that, but a lot of lifetimes, and I've seen a lot of different things, and we are all just so alike.
Yeah.
We have so much more in common than we don't. This outer covering is just so superficial. We are so much deeper beings than what we seem are aware of in this human existence. So it's pretty cool to be here, though.
The human experience, man, it's a party.
It's a party planet.
I do love what you said, though, in regards to how you were hoping to no longer live, you would no longer have to deal with all of that stuff. Because I feel like, especially nowadays, I know it's a bit heavy of a subject, but there's like the suicide rates are very high. And
I didn't think about that.
It makes me so sad to hear that people are, maybe it's just, I mean, I don't know. So please, like, don't judge me on this, but that they feel so alone or having a lack of resources to such an extent where they feel like they can't be here anymore. And then to go on and with everything you've experienced to go and say, well, I mean, not say, to understand that them doing that, it didn't solve that problem. It didn't solve that. So they're still going to have to work through and heal and do the emotional work, which actually kind of leads me to my next question is,
okay,
how? So you do these regression sessions by, assisted with a facilitator, and you see these a lot of times very intense lifetimes and events and things that have happened. How do you actually heal that? How do you process and work through that and heal that and know that you can move on or know that it's been healed? Maybe that's a loaded question. I don't know.
I'm just trying to think of a good example. How do you work through it? It does take time. My book is in chronological order, but it's not a daily order. There are between chapters, sometimes years go by or months because of the back end work. The behind the scenes stuff is, how do I deal with this? And so there's for me, processing a lot of journaling, that reflecting on your experience, what did I learn from that experience? What's the takeaway? What was I trying to accomplish? What feelings are coming up? All those kinds of things connect to what am I feeling now in this life. Like in one past life, I was tortured and killed by being thrown into icy water. And in this life, I still hate getting into a cold pool. And I really don't like that. It's like, this is not good for my health and I'm not into it. So, but I just feel there's similarities that come through. That's like, nope, that wasn't fun before. It's still not fun. So there's things like that, but I think I lost track of your question. I'm sorry, diverged, but
no, you answered it, because I was just kind of asking how the processing goes. Yeah. Because I mean, I guess everyone's different, right? Everyone deals with things differently and processes things differently. So I know, obviously, you wrote a book, so you very much process things through physical, like handwriting. So that makes sense for you. And certain people need to talk things out. So maybe, like for me, I'd probably have to sit in a room by myself and just talk out loud for a while and like reflect that way, and so
cry a lot.
Yeah, I do that. I mean, daily, basically. So more of that. And it makes, I don't know, it's so interesting to me. I love it, like learning. That's why I asked. It's like, I'm just wondering, like, and I guess if you go back.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I remember your question now. I want to finish answering it. That the process of releasing this stuff, part of it is like what I said, journaling. The other part is going back into the experience for me to have, it's like, okay, one lifetime, I didn't have somebody guiding me at first. They were popping in randomly on my own. So, or my guide would say, here's a lifetime, take a look at this. What? Okay. So that was the one where I was the Aztec, doctor, and I was killing and torturing people. And my question they were answering was, why am I so sensitive to violence? And the answer was this lifetime where I was doing all those terrible, terrible things to people. And they said, well, in this lifetime, when I was in that, I could feel nothing. My emotions were so shut down in that lifetime that I felt nothing. And torturing people was a way of trying to feel something, which I didn't. And they said, you felt nothing in that lifetime, so now you feel everything. So it was kind of a balancing thing. But that was, I still felt bad about being such a horrible person in that past. So it's very easy to not get all egotistical about, well, I've seen my past lives, because some of these are really bad and you don't want to own up to them. So, because but what you did in the past, it's still, it's still on you. But so that was part of it. But see, things unfold gradually. So that particular lifetime as an Aztec, that was only part of the story. And it wasn't till like a decade later that the rest of the story finally came through. And then it was like, oh, okay, I can stop feeling bad about what I did. There was a reason. There were reasons underneath the surface. So it comes up in layers as you're able to release, it comes off. For me, a lot of times making sense of something, like one of my big questions after my divorce, my first husband, was like, why did I get involved in this family? Why did I have this relationship? Why was I drawn to this? What's the purpose? What's the lesson? And I had gone to traditional counseling. I had done journaling. I had journaled hundreds of pages. I still couldn't accept it. I couldn't deal with, why is this happening? And when I went to a past life regression seminar, and that was the first time I really got guided through one. Spirit took me into that lifetimes where I had the same people in those past lifetimes. And there were things that happened in our relationships in the past, which finally I'm like, oh, that's why I'm here. I'm here to balance out some of the crappy things that I did in the past and make it right in the present. And it's just, it was just the connections started just like, it was such a huge relief. I went to that seminar, I saw the past lives, and it melted away, and I was done. I was done after years of counseling, just going and seeing what is the original source of my pain helped me come to terms with it and release it. It's very powerful to do regression therapy. It's very powerful.
Well, and that's it right there. That's everything. That's the point. Is it's kind of, I don't really want to use the word like fast track, because I feel like everyone today wants like a quick fix. It's not.
Oh no.
Like it's not the
it's
quick
intense.
Fix. It's because it's very, very intense, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's not like a quick fix, but it's definitely, from your experience, you've noticed, can really heal in much bigger areas of your life at one time than, for example, going to counseling for one particular thing for like 6 months, because you're healing like the original spot. I had someone ask me once, what's the point of looking back? And I said, well, if you look backwards in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes, and you find the origin of this same issue that's coming up, and you heal it, you're healing all of the timelines from there on forward. And that's the point of looking back, because some people are like, why would you look in the past? Focus on now and look forward. But I feel like that's a way of avoiding things, because you have to be able to really face your past and face, like you said, like I'm sure most people have lifetimes they don't necessarily want to look at and own up to, but by facing that shit, like you have been able to, like you said, stop feeling bad, been able to understand yourself on such a deeper level, understand your personality, and that it's not just random. Like I think that's
exactly
fascinating. Like it's so fascinating.
Well, and I want to comment on what you're saying. The people, why look in the past? Well, the thing is our attitudes about time, that, well, it's past and it's over with. From my experience, there is no time in the spirit realm. So whatever is happening, because I was wondering, why are my experiences so intense? It's like it happened right now. It happened yesterday. That's because they are still happening. As far as time is concerned, it doesn't exist. So in spirit realm, all that energy, remember, you can't destroy energy. It can only be transformed. So whatever energy was generated in the past by your happiness or your fury or the situation or that relationship, that energy is still there. It's still happening. It's still affecting you on the long term. It's like, think of an unending string, and there's little dots along the way that bookmark your lifetimes. But you have this unending string of lifetimes that all connect together. It's like this enormous tapestry or jigsaw puzzle that all fits together. And so why look at the past? It's because it's still happening and it's still affecting you now. Or if you didn't like that, one of the so many things coming to mind. The part of what guided what I wanted to look at once I started rolling on this, I'm like, okay, why do I do this? So I would go into the session where it's like, okay, I have this weird, crazy aversion to flushing toilets. It's a phobia I've had since I was a kid. Why? So I started following the trail of breadcrumbs of, why am I terrified of this? Or why does that type of food make me sick? Or why am I, scared when I go to an Egyptian museum? Or why am I fascinated by the Incas? Or, all these different fascinations and weird, quirky personality things that I was thinking, they weren't weird and they weren't random. And like that phobia of rushing water connected to lifetimes where I drowned. And once I saw those lifetimes and released that trapped emotion, the nightmares stopped and the phobia is gone. So, I mean,
oh yeah.
Healing.
PSA, she can flush the toilet now, guys.
I used to get my sister to do it. It was terrifying. I mean, when you have a crazy, terrifying phobia, and they're not all, fear of heights or things that people are, that's a normal phobia. I'm sorry, I got to stop doing the air quotes.
But there's a reason for all of them.
I had a weird phobia, and I'm coming clean.
Well,
I had
but
nightmares that I drowned in the bathroom. So,
but that's also a judgment. So it's not necessarily weird. It's just something that you came into this life with, and now you have resolved it and healed it, and you don't have to do that again in any other lifetime. So,
yes,
yay!
exactly. That's point 2. You don't have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So,
once
I
it's
mean,
healed.
some religious beliefs, I think Christian belief and other beliefs, I'm not going to name them. I don't know. But
Yeah.
the idea was that we as humans have been given the opportunity to come back into the human life stream as many times as we need to learn our lessons. Because when you're in the spiritual realm, everything is nice and happy and joyful, and you don't want to learn. You don't need to learn anything there because everything's great. So you're not motivated, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm happy, joy. And there's no time. You have eternity, and you're just like, yeah, I'll get to it.
That's why they call this Earth School.
Earth School. So that's where the only place you can work out trauma and drama and emotions and relationships and all these lessons that we're here to learn is here, because that's where we feel them.
Yes.
You don't feel them up there. So.
We have been talking about amazing things. I love all this, but I want to bring it back to the book real quick. I mean, all of this has been related. Don't get me wrong.
It's all in the book. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just pause it for a sec because my computer's going to die. So I'm going to pause recording. Okay. I really want to know, from writing this book and putting it out in the world, and I heard a little birdie tell me there was more than one volume, but I really want to know that, at least with this first volume, what do you really want everyone who reads it to get from it? I know we've talked about a lot of amazing things that even listening to this podcast, they're getting from it. But when they're reading your book and seeing your whole journey and process, what do you really want people to get out of this? What's the point of writing this?
Well, that's 2 different questions, isn't it?
Oh, well,
well, the point of writing it was for my own reflection. I didn't start out writing a book to publish. I started out trying to reflect on where I had come from and where I had been, because I suddenly found myself retired and going well, now what do I do? So I was writing about it to try and find out, where do I go from here? What ended up happening is I ended up getting all these excellent catharsis and more releasing. Like I said, it releases in sections. So the more I went over the material, the more I relived these experiences, the more I released. So it was it was just an amazing experience just to do this. Now, sharing it, it became apparent at some point. I started thinking, well, people need to know this, that the journey is not perfect, that there's stops and starts along the way, that it takes time, that everyone, one of my main questions was, I wasn't born a psychic, but can I become one? Can I learn to connect directly to source, especially after not having that direct connection? I wanted that. I wanted to be able to talk to whoever healed me. I wanted to be able to know what was happening and have a dialogue rather than just, asking and waiting. So that was one of the big things I want people to realize. Everybody is an immortal soul, and we are eternal. Our spirits are. We have this amazing internal guidance. We all have a piece of the eternal within us that guides us. And it's just a matter of being quiet to listen. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. And I know that when I was growing up, what we watch every Easter, the 10 Commandments, the big booming voice of God. And it was just I was thinking, if God's going to talk to me, it's going to be this big booming voice, and the ground is going to shake, and I'll be terrified and my hair will turn white. So that's not how it happens. So it's when you're quiet and you're still and you allow yourself to ask the questions like, wow, what should I do now? Higher self, what should I do now? Angels, spirit guides. And actually waiting for the answer, or just start writing it out. Whatever pops into your head, what we have long considered imagination, I now consider to be higher guidance, because it comes from somewhere. Something can't come from nothing. Something comes from something. And so I'd really like people to at least start to recognize that, wow, I've had some of those weird things happen to me, and I've just dismissed those, and not realizing that they use their intuition every day when they play a hunch, or they turn right instead of left because, I don't know, I just feel like I should turn left today, and then find out later there was an accident the other way. So you are protected. You are not alone. You are guided, and you have so many resources available to you if you just ask, because they're not going to intrude upon you. They will wait for you to be ready. They will wait for you to ask. And then when you're ready, their presence will come forward. And there's just so many ways to sense. And so I thought, by sharing my journey with all the mistakes, the errors, the questions, the doubts, the self-recriminations, I share my open heart with what I experienced. And it wasn't all fun and games. There was some good stuff, but it was rough. But at the end of the story, at the end of the line, or not the end of the line, I'm not at the end of the line yet, but after all that is happening, there's a couple more volumes, so you're not going to be left hanging forever. But it's been an amazing journey, and I just wanted to help people understand that things are not the way we think they are.
I love it. It's so brave of you. And what I really love is how, I feel like everything is perspective, and the way that your book helps your perspective shift, I think, is the biggest point, really. But I feel like it almost helps you see the world in such like a different light, things a little bit more magical. And like, that's just the Disney person in me talking. But really though, magical. I live in Southern California, right, where there's crazy traffic and like all these things all the time. But it's like, when your perspective shifts a little bit, when you're driving around and someone cuts you off and you just want to flip them off and honk your horn and go crazy, it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe they're slowing me down for a reason. Like, there's just such a different way that we can look at things. Maybe this person, driving recklessly is saving my life somehow. We really don't know. We don't know the bigger picture. And that's what I love about it too, is it just helps you bring the picture, like, it helps you like zoom out and just think about life in such a different perspective than what we've seen before. I've read other like similar books that talk about past lives and stuff like that, and it's a similar experience, but I've never seen anything like what you've written here. And I'm not trying to be biased, because I know you very personally, and I'm very grateful that you're my sweet mama in this lifetime. And I've done some exploration in past lives myself, and this is not the first time you and I have been hanging out on Earth together, so it's pretty awesome. And I'm just so glad you're here. Okay, so any other like thoughts or few words you want to wind up this podcast episode with?
Yes. I just feel that you're doing fine. The question I get the most often is, am I going the right way? Am I on the right path? And unequivocally, I could say, yes, you are. You're exactly where you need to be. And you are perfect exactly the way you are right now. And you are definitely being guided. It might be a little zigzaggedy of a path, but it's exactly what you need. And to me, and I love this, I'm going to share this here, the thing that was shared with me when I was coming out of a particularly difficult session. 3 of my most amazing spirit guide spirit friends, were surrounding me in this triangle of just love energy. It was just the most amazing energy. And I'm like, well, what do I do? How do I progress? How can I keep going? What do I need to do? What's the goal? And their answer to me, and they did like a monkey see thing. They said in order, the key to developing your spiritual mastery is to be yourself, to trust yourself, and to love yourself.
Oh, perfect.
And then you're on your way. And it seems so simple, but the more I've thought about it, I'm thinking, well, you find yourself in a situation, you're feeling upset and everything like that. And then you realize, well, wait a minute. Am I trusting myself? Am I being myself? Am I upset because I'm not being my true self? Yeah. Am I feeling not loved because I'm not loving me enough? And if you can truly do these things, be, trust, and love you the way you are, no conditions. I mean, it's huge. If you can do that, just try to do that. It's huge.
And in all situations, right? I feel like it's simple to say that. It's like me sitting in my own home, being myself, loving myself, being comfortable, trusting myself. Yeah, I can do that, but put me out in the world and put me in some uncomfortable situations, and it's a whole different ball game. So I feel like it's really about doing that in every circumstance that life can throw at you, because that's completely different.
Yeah, it's simple words, but extremely powerful, extremely deep. The more you, attribute that and apply that to different situations, like you're saying, it's becomes just such huge advice.
Well, that's beautiful. Advice, so. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. And what upcoming events or giveaways or anything? Obviously, your book's launching on the 22nd. Is there anything we need to know before that? Well, if you pre-order the book now, it's on pre-sale right now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can pre-order now. If you do that and send me a copy of your receipt, you will get a free guided meditation, my favorite meditation, Spiritual Sanctuary. So, woohoo! And that's now until the 22nd. So until the 21st. Until the 21st. Yes. Okay. And both of those links will be in our show notes. So look for that. I'll also include the email address in which those need to be emailed. So once you make the pre-order purchase, take a screenshot or forward the confirmation to the email address in the show notes, and you will get a MP3 download of a free, wonderful meditation that's yours to keep forever. Yep. Amazing. And where can we find you on the internet? What social media platforms are you on? Where can we keep up to date with all this stuff? You can find me at Adria G Author on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and TikTok, I think. Still working on that one. She's going to teach me how to do that one. All the socials. All the socials, but definitely Facebook and of course my website, Adria. Author Adria Gabriella.com. It'll be in the notes. Yes, all the links and all the things will be in the notes. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being here today. I know you're here for like most of the podcast anyway, but this was a very special podcast, and I'm so happy to talk with you about your book finally and to showcase all the amazing things you've been through. So thank you so much for being here. Look at that print now. Oh my gosh. It's in my proof. I can't wait to walk into a bookstore and see it on the shelves. I really can't. I know that'll be when it's really real. Oh my gosh. Wow. Incredible. All right. Well, sending you all so much love. Thank you for being here. If you have any follow-up questions, if you want to get in touch with either of us, all the contact information will be in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at Navigating Bliss, or if you want to email me, navigatingbliss11@gmail.com. Be kind to one another and take that quiet time to self-reflect. Sending you all so much love. Have a wonderful day. Make it a good one. Ciao. Bye. Take care.